Hey, parents, good afternoon and welcome to our YouTube channel. Welcome to the Student Success School YouTube channel. I'm Portia Williams, also known as the Student Success Coach. And what I do is I help parents grades K through 5 confidently speak up on their child's behalf without being seen as the angry parent so that they can help their child achieve academic success, right? And so it's my job to really help parents speak up on their child's behalf. For those of you who don't know, I started coaching originally for parents out of frustration as being an educator. So I'm a former educator and I was very frustrated with being an educator. Number one, the pay was not worth all the stress that I was going through. So, problem number one, right? And so it really um, pushed me, right? The lack of income and then all of the stress that I was going through as an educator to want to do it on my own. Like, I love education, it was no doubt about it, but I always had a dream of entrepreneurship as well. And so I decided to take what I love, right? Education and entrepreneurship, and combining them and creating a brand that really helps parents help their child achieve academic success. And so that was in 2017, 8 years later. Here we are. I don't even know if it's 9 years yet. I don't even know. It's 2017. So yeah, 9 years. 9 years. We're in 2026. So 9 years. This year will be 9 years of coaching. And so I'm super excited about serving you in our YouTube channel. Feel free, like, go through the channel and watch these master classes. They are full of transformational information that will help your child achieve academic success. Like, it is a guaranteed, okay? It's a guarantee. And so go through, this channel. There's playlists here, right? I have a what ifs playlist and then a parent problems playlist. And so you can tell, like, any of the master classes you should watch, right? Or really hone into based upon, the title of that master class. And so if it stands out to you, you should watch it. All right. So welcome again. For those of you who are new, like, comment, subscribe, and share. You have to say that when you're on YouTube. Please do that, right? Like, comment, subscribe, and share with someone else as well, right? And thank you, more importantly, even if you don't do that, for just being here. So God bless you. I'm here to serve you today. And so let's get into it. I don't want to hold your time up. I'm sure some of you are on break, right? Or you're catching this class and you've got like 50,000 things to do. But I am here to serve you. And I want to do that, not in a rush, but I want to do that in a timely fashion. I don't want to go over 30 minutes, right? It's no need to drag this out. So, first things first, if you haven't seen the title of this masterclass, it's entitled Never Speaks Up. Never Speaks Up. Shorthanded, right? This is centered to the problem that so many parents actually never say, right? It's a fear that comes up. Like, what if my child never speaks up academically, right? And I was talking about this when I did the reminder post earlier on my social media platforms, right? There's this language that parents use, right? And maybe you use it, right? When your child isn't doing well academically, you may say a phrase like, why didn't you ask for help? Right? And we'll talk about that too today. Why didn't you ask for help? Often a child will say, like, I don't know. And then the response a parent would give is, well, you need to speak up. You need to ask your teacher for help, right? And then there's a period there or an exclamation mark, and then that's it, right? And often the child does not speak up, right? And so if that's the experience that you've had with your child, especially in grades K through 5, I want to share something with you. First thing is that every child is different, right? Every child is different. Every child doesn't naturally have this boldness, right? Where some children do, to just say, hey, listen, I need help. Teachers walking by, like, hey, I don't get this. Every child doesn't have that naturally. Every child does not have that naturally. And honestly, every child is different in the classroom. Even if you have more shyer students, right? They're all not the same, right? We might can put them in a certain category that they're shy, but then it might show up differently, right? And so that's the first thing that I want to share with you is that every child is different in the classroom, right? And your child may be one that is afraid to speak up. It literally could be a fear of theirs, right? And so they might not want to necessarily speak up when they need help, right? Because they don't want to sound like they don't know, right? In front of their peers. And it's a big thing, right? And think about it, even in your workplace or just in your life, right? How often do we want to sound like we don't know something in front of a lot of people? It's not often. It's not often that we just want to feel like, we don't know something when a lot of people are in the room, whether it's at work, right? Your supervisor may be like, hey, how can we get this? Like, how can we get this done? You probably don't want to be the only one in the room that doesn't have the answer, right? And so I want you to consider that even with your child. Can you imagine? Maybe some of you can, right? They may not want to sound like they don't get what everybody else understands. Okay. And often your child might not speak up because they don't want to sound like they're left behind. Like they don't want to sound like they know, which in essence will leave them behind if they don't know, right? Or they might not want to be put on the spot that they have to get more information. The teacher could hold up the whole class trying to make sure your child gets information. Kudos to them if they do, right? But then what could be the backlash of that? There are kids who might tease them. There are kids who literally like maybe like, oh, blowing smoke, right? Because they're ready to move on because they got it already. And there are a lot of kids that don't want to experience that, right? They don't want to seem like they don't know something in front of their peers. And they're willing to take the risk to be left behind so that it seems like they get it and fit in. And it's unfortunate. And that's why I want to share with you, right? What's at stake if your child isn't speaking up, right? It's unfortunate. But what's the real reality of this if this problem doesn't get solved, right? And in the back of your mind, you still have this fear, right? And so if you're holding on to this fear of what you believe could possibly be that this will happen to your child forever, right? That this might be just what it's going to be, right? They're not going to speak up for themselves academically. Here's something that I want you to keep in mind, right? When you have this fear that nothing's going to change and this might be just who your child is, right? You start to feel like, right, that they're not going to be able to speak up, right? This is who they are. You're almost settling for this is who they are. And often that's not the truth. For some students, they are just not big on like putting themselves out there. But that doesn't mean that they can't speak up. And that's something I want you to really pay attention to, right? As I was taking notes, this is one of the first things I wrote down, meaning this is very common, right? And it's very popular and it's something that came in my spirit that I really think. And when I say popular, what I think is often not looked at first, right? So if you have this fear that your child will never speak up, you may start to feel like they can't. Like, they're just incapable of doing that because you're seeing it so often. You're constantly asking them, "Why didn't you ask your teacher for help when they're at home?" And you're doing homework with them, and they don't know what's going on, right? or you get their grades back and they're poor, right? It's like, why didn't you tell your teacher you didn't like what's up with your grades? And then they're like, well, I didn't know. And you're like, well, you sat in class a whole quarter and you never said anything to your teacher, right? I get that. But after a while, it can play on you emotionally, right? And then maybe you'll start to think that this is just like they're not going to be able to speak up. And you settle for this is who they are. And you think that they're more shy academically, or they're just not going to speak up. They're not vocal about the things that they need help with, right? And then over time, if it's ignored, you don't help them, right? Because maybe you don't feel like you know how. And so I want you to realize that, right? At worst, right? For some parents, they'll start to think that their child can't even learn, right? That there's like a disability here, right? When for so many students, it's not. It's not. And if it is, right, there's still help for it. And so I want to point this out as well, right? When there's this fear that comes up that your child will never speak up for themselves academically, right? I really believe that there's a lot of time being spent on the fear versus the time that should be spent on teaching them how to speak up. So, in some, you're not spending the time to teach them how to speak up, but you're just indebted in fear. And so I don't want that for you, right? I don't want that for you. I don't want you to be spending more time on worry and fear when you could be helping your child solve their problem academically because you have what it takes. I mean, my entire brand is built on that belief that parents have what it takes to confidently help their child achieve academic success and speak on their child's behalf without being seen as this angry, mean, and nasty parent, right? But really help their child achieve academic success. I believe that. And I think all that needs to happen is that you shift, right? That you shift from where you are right now to really where you want to be. And so, how do you get there, right? How do you actually help your child speak up for themselves academically? Here's the answer. I encourage you to spend time getting to know your student, all right? Your student, not your child. You probably know them, but your student, because there's a difference, okay? And when you get to know who your student is, right, then you'll be able to learn where their strengths are. You'll be able to learn like their learning styles, right? And with learning their strengths and their learning styles, you will be able to use that to help them confidently speak up academically. It will work for their advantage. When they know what they're really good at and how good they are academically, they'll be able to speak up confidently when they don't understand something, when they have that strength, right? And when they know it and then they're using it. Okay. And I can say this confidently because it's something that I would have loved for my parents to really, really, really know, right? This knowledge of just knowing who I was as as a student, not as a child, or maybe they knew me, right? First thing they said, Portia, I know you, right? But who was I as a student, right? And I don't think that it was until like I was achieving academically that they were able to see it, right? And I don't want that for your child. That took me from 1st grade to 10th grade for my parents to start to see me in a different way academically, right? And so I want you to know this. I'm gonna share this with you. I took some notes about it because I wanted to make a point about it. I didn't speak up for myself academically at all about nothing, right? I didn't even want to read out loud, let alone speak up and say I needed help from my teacher. And so I definitely didn't want to sing like I didn't get certain things in class because I was a child that when I read in class, the kids were like, Girl, we gotta get the lunch, right? It was a lot of huffing and puffing and blowing their houses down because it just took me so long to read. It wasn't my strength, right? It was not my strength, right? And still, honey, you asked me to read something, I need to review it, okay? Out loud because it's just not my thing, right? But I'll say this, when I was like coming home and I had to like do homework and I would sit at the table and my dad or my mom is like, Portia, why is this taking you so long to get this done? I'm like, I don't understand. And they're like, you don't understand, right? Um, why? When you've been in class all day, you've been in school all day, why don't you understand? You're not paying attention to class. I'm like, it was, right? I was there, but I didn't know what was going on. I wasn't getting it. And I never raised my hand to say, "Hey, I don't get that. Can you go back? I need you to go back because I don't get it." Right. And so that's something that it just pierced my heart a bit because there's so many students that don't say, "Hey, I don't get it. Go back." And they have a right to say, "Hey, I don't get it. Take it back." 'Cause I don't get it, teach me. And I was that student. And so when I'm listening to parents, right, and I hear them like saying their child isn't asking for help, they're not speaking up, they don't say anything, they're tired of talking to their child about, not asking for help when they need it, right? That's something I think about, right? What it feels like when you're in the classroom and you don't want to ask for help and you don't want your teacher to have to go back to teach you because the whole class is going to act like, you know, they're living in their last days because I had to be explained something, right? I know what that's like. But what will help and what I know if I had this confidence to know about me, right? You might not understand this, but you're so good at all of these things, right? And it took a while, right, for my parents to actually see those certain things in me. So I will say this, right? I'm gonna tell you another, and all of these stories can be repeated 50 times back to back because it happens so often. I was a huge talker in class. Like now, academically, maybe I wouldn't say nothing, but socially, your girl was voted most likely to succeed. Okay, and that was like high school superlatives or middle school superlatives. So can you imagine? Little Miss Elementary School, little Portia was something, honey. I talked, and my parents would often be like, "Well, Portia, what are you talking about in class?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know. That was earlier." But that very tool, that very thing that could be so annoying, my report cards were like full of, Portia's a great student, right? We're so pleased to have her in our class. It's a pleasure to have her in our class, but she talks. She's just excessive in talking. That one skill, because it's a skill, literally is what I do as a professional. So one of the things that I want you as a parent to realize is that yeah, your child may have challenges in certain areas, but really getting to know who they are academically, you can learn to use that to your advantage, right? And to teach your child what their advantage is and strengthen them so they can use it for their weakness. I'll just break it down a little bit further, just using myself. Had my parents known like my learning style, right? I'm a very auditory learner, right? I'm going to talk, I'm going to listen for the most part, right? That was my style. I just needed to know how to convert that from being a little Miss Social Butterfly, right, over to how to speak up when I need help. Now it's not a problem, but then it was, and so that's something that I want you to keep in mind because as a parent, right, if you continue to hold on to this fear, of your child never speaking up, right? Three things that I want to bring to your attention that can happen, right? Number one, you'll start to feel like they can't when that's not the truth, they can, right? Then you can start to think that they have a disability. And for so many students, it's not. And even when they do have a disability, right, there's still other things that can help them solve their problem, right? Number three, right? You're spending too much time on the problem, the fear, versus teaching them how to speak up confidently, right? And so that's something that I need you to pay attention to, right? I need you to pay attention to it. And how do you pay attention to that, right? Know who your student is, not your child. You know them. Know who your student is. Know who they are academically. Knowing who they are academically will teach you, right? Their learning styles are, their strengths are. You can use those learning styles and those strengths to help strengthen their weaknesses or the things that they have challenges with academically. And if that's speaking up, their learning style can help you help them speak up in a way that works for them, right? Okay. And so that wraps up this masterclass. I pray that this was impactful for you. Please don't leave here without letting me know anything that stood out to you if it did. If anything stood out to you, comments, let me know. I want to hear from you. If you're catching a replay, same rules apply. All right. And for any of you, if you're a parent, right, and you have this fear that your child is never going to speak up, or your child literally is not speaking up in the classroom for themselves academically, or even when they're at home, right? You sit down with them to do homework or like to review their grades, and they don't know what's going on. And you ask them why don't they know what's going on, and they say they don't know. And then you ask them why didn't they ask their teacher, and they're like, I don't know. Sign up for a speak up session with me, right? Sign up for a speak up session with me. This is the time where we can get on the phone and I can begin to uncover like what's stopping you from helping your child confidently speak up, right? Let's get down to like what's the problem, right? What's the problem? What's going on with your child academically, right? What is it that you want to see from them, right? We can talk all about it during a breakthrough session. I would love to have you, and it will be an honor to serve you, right? It will be an honor. Just let's just get on the phone and let's talk and let's see what's going on, right? I promise you, you'll have a major breakthrough while you're there, and that's why it's entitled a breakthrough session. Yeah, breakthrough session. All right. How can you find one of those sessions? Great question, right? Comment below. Literally comment below and say, "Hey, I want a breakthrough session." And I will reach back out to you directly. I'll comment that link. Listen, if you have to copy and paste it and put it in your search engine, hey, right? Or you can literally email me, right? Email me at the student success school at gmail.com, and I will email you a link and we can set up a time to talk. I love you all so much. Thank you for being here uh, at my YouTube channel. Feel free, if you haven't, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And until we chat again, I don't see why I wouldn't be here next Monday. But next time, same place. I love you all and help your child by getting to know them so they can speak up for themselves academically. I love you much. Have a great day. Bye.